Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Good evening.
Wherever you are.
Welcome to Being Here.
Being here, that's an interesting concept.
It is. I'm Ariel.
I'm Shia.
Today's theme is the urgency of now.
But I was taken by being here.
Tell me.
Well, we are so distracted by the moment, from the moment,
Yes.
from the moment, by all the things that we judge as important.
Mm-hmm.
And we disregard our life in that going for what's important.
Mm.
Getting here, making it happen. All of that is, in a way, really quite irrelevant to experiencing being.
Mm.
Just being alive. We all have these noisy minds, and they're opinionated, and they know what's right and wrong. And we get lost in that. When you draw distinctions between good and bad and right and wrong, you are no longer being here in your life. You're now a position against another position.
It's
you become
so easy.
Polarized.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and in our culture, our country, what's going on with the politics, it's so easy to get lost in being right. And you get to the end of the day and you go to sleep. As you lie down, what do you remember of the day? How much of the day were you there to experience? Very little, I'm afraid.
It's a really good point, because for certain, it's so easy to get lost in our opinions.
Oh, yeah.
Or get lost trying to figure out something and then not be here, engaged.
It's all about figuring out something for the future rather than this moment. So the urgency of this moment, this is where your life is taking place. And if you're busy thinking about what you have to do and what will make you a better person and what you have to accomplish today, then you'll miss out on being here for what you're accomplishing.
I really find that distractibility shows up as I'm listening. So I know today...
As you're listening?
Yes,
or not listening?
I'll tell you, well, both, but listen, and I'll tell you what I mean.
I'm listening.
Okay, good. So when I'm listening to a podcast or an audiobook, and in this case, the folks who've tuned in are listening to our Being Here podcast.
Yes.
There are times when I am very attentive to the story, if I'm listening to an audiobook,
mm-hmm.
or the content of a podcast.
Yes.
And there are other times, particularly if I'm driving and listening, or sometimes I'm cooking in the kitchen and listening, and sometimes even if I'm just sitting, where all of a sudden I realize I missed a piece.
Yes.
Because I was off working on something that wasn't.
Yes.
And when that happens, I tend to just turn it off. I prefer to fully listen when I'm listening. And we really recommend that today.
Yes.
That you listen to hear what's being said, not only from Shia and myself, but we have a couple guests calling in today.
Yeah, but listen to hear not what you expect or want to hear, not what you think is reality, not what you already know. There was this Alan King quote that Ariel read me the other day. And Alan King, if you don't know, was a news personality who interviewed all kinds of famous people. And he said, I never learned anything by talking. I learned by listening.
So let's see what we can learn from each other today.
Okay.
I can learn from you. I've been with you almost 39 years, but I can still learn each day something new.
Only something? Only one thing? I'm failing. I'm failing.
Oh boy, we better take our guests soon. All right. Let's take our first guest. Looks like we have Colleen.
Hi.
Hi,
Hi.
Colleen.
Hello. I'm zooming in from Manhattan in New York.
Yes.
Well, welcome to being here.
Thank you. It's nice to see you guys. Nice to be here.
Yes.
I
Your
love,
kitchen, huh?
yeah, in the kitchen. This is where my home office takes a corner of the kitchen.
That's cool.
That's lovely.
I love it. I love the title and the description of this show. Expressing yourself, or expressing myself into the moment becomes precious and urgent. And with being at home all of the time, I love my work. I work from home. I'm a banker. I work in the financial industry, in the loans department, and I'm also the Canes, your seminar coordinator. And I also consider myself a singer-songwriter. And I feel like I'm not.
You right there.
Mhm.
Okay.
You're a banker. You're a seminar coordinator.
And you consider yourself
yourself.
your songwriter. And so I got
Okay.
that
That's
leads
qualified.
me to doubt. Yes, that's a qualified statement of who you are.
It is. I guess I don't feel like a singer-songwriter anymore.
But do you feel like a banker in this moment?
In this moment.
I guess.
Are we talking banking?
No. So I'm not a banker in this moment.
Do you feel like a seminar coordinator in this moment?
In this moment.
No.
No. How about a friend having a conversation with a couple of friends?
Yes, that's what I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, if you haven't been directing your attention into your singing or your songwriting recently, that facility may fade to the background.
But it's not gone. And I actually love that you're not doing singer-songwriting now, because if you were, you would come from what you already know and repeat the same patterns over again, which is self-improvement for the most part.
Yes.
Because most of your songs have that as a theme.
Yes.
I've had that as a theme.
That's true.
Getting somewhere.
Hidden somewhere. Oh, yes.
Rather than actually being okay, being Colleen, being exactly as she is.
Yeah.
See, those three principles of instantaneous transformation show up for me when I think that you can't be anywhere other than where you are in the current moment of our lives, your life. In this moment, you're not a singer-songwriter. You're not a banker. You're not a seminar coordinator. You're a participant in a conversation over Zoom.
Yes.
And you don't have to change a hair. You're already as perfect can be.
In this moment.
In this moment.
In this moment, you can only be exactly as you are.
And that is the basis for it all. When I realized about 34 years ago now, I guess, I don't recall the exact moment actually, I do remember a moment where I fell into the moment and realized that I could not be different than I was. And I realized it as a fact, not as a preference. I suddenly got that I couldn't be any other way than I was in that moment of now, which freed me from my past, because I realized that all the work I had done on myself to try to improve myself, I had to have done that when I did that. I couldn't be different in any previous moment of my life. And there goes shame, blame, guilt, resentment, regret. All that falls away when you realize that this is it. This is where your life is, this moment of now. No place to get to, no better, no worse. This is the way it is.
So we stopped you in your lead in because something was being stated that you were not aware of, but I'm wondering if you had a question past that.
Well, my question past that was I feel so comfortable and in my life right now. And I feel like I've lost urgency somewhere. And I'm wondering, how do I get that back?
I don't believe you've lost urgency. You've lost frantic.
Oh.
Sometimes if something's urgent, we have the idea that we need to be frantic to prove to ourselves that we get the urgent nature of something.
This morning I was cooking breakfast and I was cooking it with urgency because different things were at different times going off, like the eggs needed to be turned over, the bacon needed to be turned over, the cheese needed to be put on the eggs. There were things that needed to be done in each moment of the process of producing breakfast. Of course, coffee had to be brewed as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't frantic. It was what's next, what's next, what's next, what's next, moment to moment to moment. No frantic needed.
So I just looked up the word urgency while he was talking, and he was describing it, its importance, requiring swift action. Because if you leave the eggs too long, they will burn, or the bacon too long, it will burn, or if you don't put the cup underneath the espresso machine when it's about to express liquid, the liquid won't go into the cup. So there's something that requires swift action, but it doesn't have that tension, frantic nature that I used to assign along with the word urgent, kind of like urgent care. Urgent care usually sounds like it's an emergency rather than I need something taken care of now and my normal doctor's office isn't open. I'm going to go to urgent care. So most of us are trained to think of urgency and emergency, but they're not the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not frantic.
Right.
It doesn't have to be frantic. I mean, it could be frantic, but I think the franticity gets in the way of the smooth rollout of whatever you're producing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to talk about your singing and songwriting for a moment.
Okay.
I find here there are times where I have a real urge to write. And as you know, we have articles each month.
Is urge like
Urgent.
urgency?
Yeah. Very good. You're
Same
very
mood.
good. Same mood.
Right.
As you're aware of, since June or July, we've been writing something called the Kitten Chronicles. There's a blog post about our cat, and it's been very fun. And sometimes that just falls out of me. And we have articles each month on the public site. And we are also reimagining, redoing our subscription program. It was the Premium Excellence Club. Now it's Living Made Easy on Demand. And in that subscription program, the subscribers get all of the first run articles. They get first shot at reading anything that we are producing. There are times when that writing facility is blank. It's like not queued up. But if I don't press myself to write, when writing isn't here in this moment, it's almost as if I'm filling a pitcher of creativity, and when it gets overflowing, it just pours out. So it's not that I'm not a writer when I'm not writing, or as a part of my business or as a part of my repertoire of possibilities, I'm just not doing that activity right now. So if you're not currently singing or songwriting, that doesn't make you not a songwriter or singer. It means you're not doing that activity right now.
Mm.
The time you spend second guessing or wondering if it's real just
or
diminishes.
beating on yourself for not.
Mm. Yeah.
You know, Ariel mentioned the Kitten Chronicles, and I've watched in the last day or two our cat go through some amazing transformations because she was frantic. She was erratic. She was aloof. She was not petable. She was not holdable until a day or two ago.
She has spent more time in Shia's lap in the last 2 days than she has probably in the last 2 months put
Or
together.
more, or more.
Wow.
But it's transformational in that she feels safe with me now.
Mm.
And it took me being there with her to allow it to happen because it wasn't going to happen on its own. Her natural propensity is to be wary because that's what's kept her species alive.
Right.
And so to surrender, you know, some cats are really, you know, they rub up against you all the time. They want your attention. This is not that cat
Mm.
until yesterday.
Mm.
So transformation is this phenomena that happens when you get into the moment. Now, listening is the easiest way to get here because if you truly listen to what somebody says, rather than your internal commentary about what they're saying, seeing whether you agree or disagree, or it agrees or disagrees with it, that act of listening just pulls you into the current moment of your life. And that's where transformation takes place. And you can't do being transformed. They're different realities, different realms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, so
But
good.
you already are, you see. Your mind doesn't know it because your mind is a machine that repeats the same things over and over again. And one of them is not, I'm feeling great.
Yes, it's true. Huh.
The other thing, I,
Colleen.
I just want to say, Colleen, yes, I know her name's Colleen. Thank you so much for helping. We didn't say this, but we do finish each other's sentences. And from time to time, we help out.
Actually, we actually do help each other with things like that
Yeah, we
because
do.
they slip away.
I was, although I forgot what I was going to say now. Um, matters not.
It matters not. And that's the truth.
Ah, I remember now. Here's what it is, Colleen. Uh, you can always find people to compare yourself to. So as a singer and as a songwriter, you can look out and, if you want, just think of maybe Lady Gaga at the inauguration. You are not her, you are you. You can find somebody's output or their recognition to diminish yourself with.
Hmm. I did that.
Well, we saw recently a documentary, if you will, on the vice president, Kamala Harris, and her husband. And they, on his first date with her, he gave her 4 months of his schedule. And, and I didn't have a love affair like that. What's wrong with me? I'm not a high powered attorney.
Yeah.
You can find fault. But on my first date with her, I told her she was the one for me in this lifetime. And that was 39 years ago. And we're still
That was pretty good back
That
there.
was a pretty good back then.
That was a great back then.
Yeah. But this is a great right now, you see. And all we have is now, and all that is history, and it's not even history. It's just a memory trace of something that we think happened.
Mm. Mm.
Because our interpretation of it is always unique to our system of interpreting.
I have a new interpretation.
Yes.
Before we let Colleen go off on her day. You are a brilliant singer. The song you're singing right now is from your kitchen. It's here on this show. It is. It's just different than the song that you're used to recognizing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. Really lovely being here.
Yes.
It's that time.
The time for what?
Our listener feedback spotlight.
What is that?
Well, I'm so proud of the people who listen to this show. And now we get to hear from one or more of them about what's happening in their lives with transformation by listening to this podcast and
what they've discovered about life, what they've discovered about their lives, that they are experiencing fun in their lives.
And that they want to share it with you.
Yeah.
This is Susan from New York City. And one of the byproducts of taking a seminar with Ariel and Shaya is I give my brain a break. It's like a spa for my brain, and worry disappears. And all of a sudden, I'm having fun in my life. Yummy.
Do you want to have well-being with consistency? Connect with people all over the world from the comfort of your own home at Ariel and Shire's lively interactive Living Made Easy virtual seminars. Join any of their 2-hour online events or take a deep dive into the magic of being you at a virtual weekend seminar. Come on, let's connect. Find out more and register at transformationmadeeasy.com.
This Saturday, and then of course on Monday, we have 2 Living Made Easy virtual seminars. The one Saturday is translated into German, and Monday it is not. Our next weekend virtual seminar, actually we have a Friday first, the Freedom to Breathe on April 16th.
And April 17th and 18th, we're doing Celebrating the Unexpected.
It's really perfect.
Well, it really is. You know, I didn't expect you in my life a moment before you showed up. And then that's all there was.
And you know what? A year ago today,
yes,
given when this is being released, we flew to Oregon and flew back on the very same day, recognizing
COVID,
that it was not safe to be traveling and we needed to get ourselves in order. And 10 days later, we had our first virtual seminar. It is possible that as you celebrate the unexpected as opposed to fight it, transformation happens, your life blossoms. If you want to come invest in that with us, you're welcome. You can find out more about all of our seminars and everything we're offering
at transformationmadeeasy.com.
Also, we launched this month the Reimagine subscription series. It's now Living Made Easy on Demand, and there are all sorts of possibilities there where you can have mini seminars with us, where you see us working or having a conversation with a person one-on-one, and articles, and a place where you can write in questions that we answer and publish for everyone to see. So if you want to know more about that, that's transformationmadeeasy.com
/on
demand.
There you go.
All right, let's take our next guest.
Yes.
Teresa?
Hi, so
Hi.
nice to be here.
Yeah, welcome to being.
Thank you. My name is Teresa, as you mentioned, and I'm in New York City right now.
Excellent. Welcome.
What can we do for you, my dear?
Well, I was listening before I come on. I was listening to Colleen and the conversation you were having with Colleen, and it was so fascinating because it was so many things of what you were speaking about was what I was thinking about and wanted to speak about with you. So,
Such as?
well, when I first thought about urgency, my mind went to something bad. Like urgency is not good. And it's interesting because then I also Googled the word urgency because I thought, well, what does it really mean? And I found it interesting that they right underneath like the definition, there was something like, what's the difference between emergency and urgency? So then I thought, wow, maybe a lot of people, I guess get them confused, but I guess what I
That's
realized.
very interesting what you just said, because it gives me information. Emergency. It emerges. See, life shows up moment by moment. It emerges from who knows where. And then emergency means you need to add urgency to this emergence of something. It isn't life as usual.
But it's interesting that emergency for you still has that frantic counterpart.
Well,
Yeah.
there's the resistance to what is showing up is what makes it an emergency, rather than a engagement in what's showing up with urgency, and you handle whatever life brings you. See, you are capable of handling whatever life has brought you.
Yes.
Except when you disagree with it and wish it were different. And then you have a mini temper tantrum. See, your preferences are rarely, if ever, met by life. Life shows up the way it does. Our preferences are for it to show up differently most of the time.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Also, I have a story where that isn't true for myself, but it is true. I mean, I see that there are many times, almost all the time.
But you say you have a story that it isn't true for you, but that's your preference.
But I'm wondering if you've sent us kind of off on a side context, although I love talking about the difference between emergency and urgent. It seems as if you had some questions that you are now using this conversation to avoid.
Thank you. I would like to speak about, or I just feel like I do bring franticness, like you had mentioned earlier, or this extra over the top energy when I'm working to like handle things, just to handle them with urgency or just handling them, I guess, appropriately. There are times where I feel like I'm rushing through to get everything done, as if it's like ultra urgent or something. Does that make sense?
It does, but I think it comes from, at least potentially, because I've worked with you. You've taken some exquisite photos of me when I first started with Susan Finch doing Speak Up, and then at the same time you took an amazing shot of Shy and I, and you've recently done the newer pictures that are now on our website, and they're lovely. But I think from time to time you start with the idea that you're behind or you're not enough, or you, so that frantic is trying to prove something to yourself, that you're a professional or that you can do it, or that you have some story that your actions are operating as a counterpoint to, rather than just expressing yourself into life.
that resonates. I mean,
Well, look, when Ariel was saying what she just said, I was seeing how I have a story about my abilities and capabilities. And that story shows up even now, years and years and years later, as though I don't have the facilities that I have. So I'm very, very capable with my hands, using machinery. I'm very capable. Yet I have the story that I'm not very good with my hands. That comes from somewhere in the teenage years or maybe earlier. So if you have self-doubt show up, you think it means something rather than you are incredibly capable.
What's your favorite type of pie?
apple pie.
So if you take an apple pie and you take a slice out and you eat it, and then you put the apple pie in the refrigerator, when you pull it out of the refrigerator 10 minutes later, because you want another piece, didn't want to make it the next day, it's too long. Is it now blueberry?
No, it's still apple.
Great. One of the things is you're identifying this way of relating to life in only one slice of your life. It may be amplified in that slice of life, but the frantic or the self-doubt or the treating things as emergencies or having attention as in tension like a rubber band being pulled, does not only show up at work. I wouldn't be surprised if your relationship to your boyfriend, to his kids, to your family doesn't have the same components, and from time to time they're just not as illuminated for you in your mind, but you go about it the same way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you know, not to make anybody else responsible, but a lot of the things that are ways that you relate to life, you learn growing up in the family you grew up in. You either are exactly like them or you're exactly the opposite of them. But you're still stuck somewhere in between those two places, wherever you resisted it. And they didn't do anything wrong either. Because see, you can only be exactly as you are. Now, that doesn't mean ideally you couldn't be different. But in reality, in this moment of your life, Teresa, you can only be exactly as you are.
Thank you. When you say that, I just feel it's like I breathe. It's like a gentleness that I feel.
Yes. Yes.
Well, I know this is self-promotional, but that's part of why on Friday, April 16th, we are doing the Freedom to Breathe Day. Because people just need the opportunity to simply breathe without trying to get somewhere or push ourselves to be a better us. There's something about how we're always working to be a better us rather than simply
Being us, the way we are. It's perfect. You can't do your life wrong, darling. You don't make mistakes.
And you, by the way, have just demonstrated the 3 principles of instantaneous transformation. I can see it on your face. I know we're releasing this only as an audio. I'm certain people can hear it. The first principle, anything you resist, it compounds, it intensifies, you bring it with you. So if you judge the amount that you've brought tension or frantic nature or emergency over top of urgency, the more you resist that, the more it becomes a way of life. Second, you can only be exactly as you are. Here you are. Third, in this case, it's almost the take a breath. In fact, the take a breath for you happened after the transformation. It's what Shai and I sometimes talk about as the slack jaw school of enlightenment. It was as if you said, yeah, I do that. When you see something
that you do, or a way that you behave, and if you don't judge it, but just see it, that is enough for it to complete itself in an instant, outside of time. It's just over. It is no longer part of your repertoire.
Yeah, it's amazing that it's
But
so
you
simple.
can't, yes, it is so simple, but you can't do it to get rid of things, because that's when you compound them. So it gets more complex.
I do want to
Still simple, though.
say one thing for you, and which I know will translate to the folks who are listening. I have a feeling that right now, two things are happening. One, the majority of people are still largely socially distanced and isolated. So the conversation we have in our thoughts is louder because it is primarily what keeps most of us company. And if you don't realize that it's just a conversation and it's not you, you're subject to the whims of that conversation. Added to that is that there's been the vaccine rollout slower than most people would like. So people are seeing the quote light at the end of the tunnel. So there's a pressing forward. It's like an urgency to get it over with.
You know, we missed the window this morning for me to register to get a COVID shot. And I don't know when it's going to show up, but I do trust that it's going to show up when it does. There's nothing worth getting upset over. Really, nothing.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome.
Really, so lovely being with you.
Yes.
So lovely being here. I thank you.
We love you too, by the way.
We do.
Thank you. I love you both.
Felt that.
Yeah, I felt it too.
So for everybody who's listening, if you're enjoying this podcast, you can leave a review if you'd like on your favorite podcast app. It helps other people find being here. And so if you feel to do it, thanks in advance. Want to hear about next week's episode? There are no old moments. We'll be back next week.
So come on back.
And don't miss
Being here.